right, sorry, DOM manipulation. So the DOM stands for Document Object Model. Essentially the interactive representation of the HTML document. So let's go to Coders and Nerds, and you can either right click or double click and look for inspect on the page. I don't know if you've done this before, or you can come up here, there's more tools, and then there's developer tools, or command option I, and then you get this window here. And if you look on the Elements tab, this is the DOM representation of the DOM here. You can see as I highlight some of these elements. So remember the div element, the unordered list element. They have classes. You can expand, and you see these are list items inside. Reference, and with Chrome, you also get a little highlight on the page of what you're highlighting in the Elements tab. So you can see what you're looking at. And over here on your right, you also get some other information like the styles that are there. So background color, transparent, text decoration, none. There's also like computed styles, event listeners, which is what you would go through on Wednesday. But yeah, so this is DOM. You can inspect any page on the web unless they have some JavaScript stopping you from opening this window. And I encourage you to just play around with different sites. You won't be able to do much to them in terms of like breaking a website, but you can have fun with it. So let's say this is Chrome. There we have our little cursor here. If we select that allows us to go on the page now and select something we want to change. So if we selected this H1 here, you can find it here, and you can double click there, and I can just put anything I want in there, and it would appear in the DOM changed. But this wouldn't affect the website itself. This is just client-side stuff for me only to see. Yeah, so we can explore all those elements. Adding, removing, and updating elements is the key to building interactive websites. So what's on this page that's interactive? Here. So you can see the weeks are getting updated here. And that's most likely, if it's not CSS, it's probably some JavaScript, most likely React, that's updating that every time you go further up the course. Yes. Okay, so that's that. So finding elements. Now I did it the easy way, which is inspecting the page, but the DOM or the document has some methods that we can use to find stuff on the page. So I think we have some H4s here. If we wanted to find those, we could use some methods that are on the DOM. So here in the console, if I do document we have some auto completion here. So when I press enter, we have the entire document here. And also, if we did document dot, we have a whole list of methods and properties that we can access. Most of these like on load, on key up, on key press, etc. Those are what you'll be playing with on Wednesday. But today we'll be dealing with stuff like, so document dot querySelector, querySelect, and querySelector all. So it does mention here there's getElement, and this is older, so there's getElement by ID and getElement by class name, getElements by tag name, I believe, and now we really only use querySelector and querySelector all, but you can still use getElement by whatever you need to get, and there should be some examples. So the document is a global object provided by the browser. Like I just showed you, we have a whole list of properties on that document object that we can access, which include these that we can use. So here's the examples of getElement. So getElement by ID. Let's try that one. GetElement by ID. What's in here with ID? Root. So when we press enter here, we get back that same element, which is a huge element on the page, the main element on the page.
So what's the point of this? Sorry, why are we looking into that?
So this is just a way of finding well, you see, this lesson will be a bit weird because you won't be able to do that much with it. It will get much more fun on Wednesday, but I should be able to show you some stuff that you can use. So let's say I wanted to change the background color of root, although that may or may not work. Let's see. If we inspect root, okay, so it does have a background color, but it's a bit grayed out right now. But if we did const root element equals document.get element by ID root, and let's say we wanted the root element dot, so we get access to the same, well, some of the same properties you find on the document. I want the style, so we can go style, and then let's see, dot display. Let's just use display and set that equal to none. So that has effectively cleared the DOM from our point of view. We can't see anything. And I can bring that back by
just like if I compare doing this on the DOM versus doing it on your code, like on your Visual Studio Code, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me add just a bit, just to bring a little bit more of context for Thomas. Remember that until now, what we were looking at was the backend stuff. So you just go to Visual Studio and you code over JavaScript over Node.js, which is basically the engine for the backend side of things. However, starting from now, this module is about front end. And whenever you go to a website, for example, you know now that the website is built with HTML and CSS, the look and feel of how the elements are located and how they look. But when you fill a form, for example, when you hit all the fields and you hit submit, that action is not either CSS or HTML. That's basically JavaScript taking action. So starting from now, what we're doing is how the JavaScript works in the front end. So what he's doing now is just using the developer tools in the browser for you to visualize a few changes. But whenever you go back to the Visual Studio and go to your CSS and to HTML, you are going to be doing some JavaScript that now works in the web browser side of things to then send the information to the back end that is the Node.js that we've seen before.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so one example of some DOM manipulation here is like if you click on the settings button here, you get a drop down, and when you click again on another item, you get another view, etc. So this wouldn't have been, you wouldn't have been able to have done any of this without some JavaScript.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, you can get elements by tag name as well. So document.getElements by tag name. We could try the H4s. So see if we get a collection of all the H4s on the page and some other properties on it. That's a bit too long to look at. And get elements by class name. So if there's a class name on here that is used a lot and you wanted to get all the elements with that class name, you could do that. Or if you wanted to just get that one, for example, then you will be able to get that element. Right, so similar to what Ricardo mentioned, you can get this, well, let's pretend there's a form on the page and it has an ID of user form. Then you use getElement by ID to get that form. ID should be unique, so that should be the only form with the ID user form on that page. Const buttons equals document.getElements by tag name. So in this case, you're getting all the buttons on the page. So similar to what I just did with the H4s. And you get HTML collection of all those buttons. Yeah, and if there are some elements on the page with the class name of big, then if you want to get all of them, get elements by class name and then pass in the string big.
And these are JavaScript functions.
Yeah, so the document, document is this big object with some JavaScript methods, get elements by tag name, etc., etc. And that's what you would use to manipulate stuff on the page to have an interactive website instead of like just now when I went to YouTube, if I clicked on settings, without JavaScript, it will have to send a request to the server to then get me a page that has all these settings on it. And then if I wanted to go further on, yeah, so it would just be a bad user experience for me to have to go to multiple pages in order to change some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we have querySelector. So hopefully remember selectors. So if we said document dot query selector and we did image, then it would get the first image in the DOM that I can find. So in this case, it is this Twitter icon, which is this one here. So note that so this is an image here. I believe, these are images here, and like they're much higher in the, from a visual point of view, they're much higher up on the page than this, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's the first image in the DOM. So when using querySelector, just be aware that if you're getting something as generic as image, then make sure that's probably the only image on the page, but better to like use the ID or maybe a class name, or if we look at this, if you wanted to get the YouTube one, well, it doesn't have a class name, but we could do LI. And then let's do that. LI a image. I don't even need to do all of this, but image, sorry, LI ent. Now, just as I said before, you don't need to remember everything. So ent child CSS, probably W3 schools, probably, yeah. So I can do ent child, and I want the second one, so I'm already getting YouTube, and then image. So remember, with getElement, you specified what type of element you were getting. Like if you were getting it by tag name, or getting it by ID, or getting it by class name. With querySelector, you can use your different combinations of selector in here. So if you wanted to get something with a class name, you would use the dot whatever the class name is. If you wanted an ID, you would use the hash, then the ID name. If it was an element, then you just type the element. So up to you if you want to use querySelector for everything. Sometimes I use getElement by ID, just because I know it's an ID. querySelector all, so it returns all the matching elements. So
what's the sorry, kind of, I mean, I understand the context, but wouldn't be, sorry, maybe it's a kind of newbie question, but if you want to know where an element is, why don't you just go and have a kind of as you say, like put your mouse on the Twitter icon and then you see what your element is, for example?
Okay.
Rather than type querySelector.
So okay, well, let's go into the VS Code. So I just have a basic HTML file here. So it just has a div there with the ID of app. querySelector. So we got that. And let's say I wanted to, oh no, I'm going to end up showing stuff that I haven't got to yet. Let me hold that question, and when I get further into the lesson, you'll see some more of why it's more useful to, because you when you're making these interactive sites, you're not going to actually do the coding in the console here. You're actually going to build the code within your JS files. And let's say you were building a to-do list, then you would want some kind of functionality where when you click a button, you can add some text that you put into a field and add to that to-do list. And also maybe if you want to mark something as done, then you have a checkbox that when you click it, it can be checked. And also maybe you want to strike through the to-do as well.
Okay, so you're saying that the page you see here on the DOM when you're like in front of your computer is maybe not what the end result will be, because as it's interactive,
yeah,
if
so
your to-do list is all checked on your kind of looking at your web page, but actually, okay, now I understand what you mean now. Okay.
So I'll build some functions and you'll be able to see, and I'll do a live server. So it'll be a bit more clear. Yeah, as I said, this lesson is a bit weird to show without listeners and events and stuff, but you get there. Yeah, so these are the examples. Show some of all of them. Yeah, so you can also get all of the elements in the DOM if you wanted to by using the star. Good. Never mind. But so far it's clear, right? We're just finding elements using functions that are built into the DOM.
Yeah, I mean, for me, looking at this code like querySelector, I just can't, in my mind, I just can't print it because I don't really understand, but I guess it will come later, so
yeah.
You see what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's like, so you guys did the CLI app, right?
Yep.
So for that you were just printing out stuff to the console, but in this case you want to learn this bit so that you can make your stuff visual on a page, because not like you're not going to build a CLI app for your regular user. You're going to build something with a UI that has some buttons and different colors and different interactions and feedback for the user. So for example, if I actually had a terrible experience with Virgin Media the other day when my internet went down. So if I try to sign in, I'll create one. Right, so you see this tooltip here is being shown by JavaScript. So this is telling me give me some good information on where to find what I'm looking for. I was gonna actually go further in and show you other stuff, but like for example, wonder if it'll do it like that. Nope. Okay. But I'm sure you filled out forms before where if you've gotten it wrong, and entered incorrect information, you get some red text on the bottom showing you what you've done wrong. So that's all JavaScript. I mean, it could be React, but you haven't got it yet. But if it was just normal JavaScript, you add listeners to that element, which you'll discuss on Wednesday, and listen out for when something goes wrong with this input, and let the user know, give some proper feedback for the user to do something about it. Yeah, I'll find a better example.
Right.
It's just I didn't do the CLI yet, but this is going to be important stuff for what you do on Wednesday. I keep hyping it Wednesday because I'm jealous that y'all get to learn that without me. But okay.
By the way, do you know if there are any kind of exercises uploaded? Like, how is this week looking versus in terms of workload versus the other weeks?
I assume y'all are getting a project this week,
Okay.
or at least a big project that you start this week. I think so. It's gonna get more fun in terms of, you built the CLI app, but now you might be able to build the same thing that you built, but with a UI instead.
Cool. All right. I'm just asking because obviously it's. I mean, I love it as same as Ricardo. I quite enjoyed doing the exercise, but it's you kind of need to plan ahead because obviously of all the other constraints we all have. So
right. Vasil will probably say something shortly.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so we did finding elements. Now let's quickly do create element. So there's document.createElement, and it takes a tag name. That can be a div, an a tag, li, whatever. So you create element, update how and what it should display, then add it to the page. Right, so let's try this example. Okay, so here we are on VS Code. Cons.
Patrick, can you increase the font size in your Visual Studio? Yeah.
Is that better? Cons.
By the way, quite like your sparkles whenever you type in something.
Oh yeah, it's called power mode. There's some other effects like explosions and stuff, but it tanks my CPU, so sparkles is good enough for now. So document.create element, and so I'm getting some IntelliSense here. You can see some examples of all the elements that you can create. So let's create a div. So we've created an element on the DOM, and that automatically gets some methods that we can use. So let's say div, and methods and properties. So let's say div.inner text equals hello world. And then we can append that to the DOM, because let's see, I also have this extension called live server. I don't know if you have it yet, but once you have an HTML file in the folder you're working in, you can hit go live and it will bring it up in the browser. So if you inspect this one, you just have the same ID of app on that div on the index.html, a source script for this JS file, and this is just injected by live server for, so it should hot reload when I save the file, so I wouldn't have to come and refresh, so it's pretty convenient. So now we need to add this div to the DOM. So up here I already got that app div, So what I will do is just use that app div, and then there's a method called append child, and I can pass in an element or node. So I will pass in this div, save, and we see hello world.
So what is the app
Yeah,
document?
So app is just the div that I selected. I can also use document.body, which be the body tag, and that will work as well. But then that would just go right here alongside the app div.
Okay, so what you're actually doing is you are creating interactive HTML blocks, kind of. Is that the right way to think about it?
Yeah, so normally
basically
you would...
you're creating a div, you're creating a block that will then go in your index.html.
Yeah. So instead of, building up the page manually like this, I can do it interactively like this. I can
and
do
it's
this.
a JS file. So right here, your index.html and app.js are not linked. It's just to show that it's the same but with a different code. Is that right?
So in the index.html, I have a reference to app.js. So the browser knows that I mean this file here, which is in the same folder.
Got it. Okay,
yeah. This live server takes care of all the hot reloading and finding this file all the time to run the JavaScript that's in it. Once I have a reference in index.html. Yeah, so
you say you created a div. Sorry, so if you go, so the app is a document query selector app. What does this mean? The line?
So created a variable, used the query selector on the document object model, and I looked for this element that has an ID of app. The hash is what makes it an ID, and the app is the string assigned to that div. So here I have div ID equals app. So I mean this one. If I created another div and I give it a class of yellow.
Okay, so it says go on the div that says ID app. That first line says that. Okay.
Yeah. So it finds that div, and I store that in a variable. So I have access to that element now.
Yeah.
And then I can do whatever I want with that.
Got it. Makes sense.
So I can also go style again. Dot background. Oh nope. Style dot background color, I believe, equals red. Right. So that app div now has a background color of red.
That's quite strong.
Right, so that's what we did. We created the element, which was this div here.
Yeah.
We edited the inner text, so it would have been an empty string before, but we added some text to it. We didn't add a class name, but we can. And then we append it to the body. You can either use append or append child. That will work as well. Create, edit, add it to the DOM. So let's see if we maybe let's do list and we want to use the tag name UL. Don't want to give it any text yet. And we append that list to the DOM. We could also then say const list item equals document dot create element. Let's create an LA. Let's say list item dot inner text equals to do item, and let's also say list item dot style dot dot color equals blue. And then we can use list dot append list item. So we have an ordered list in the app div, and we have a list item that has a color of blue. Okay, one cheat you can do is if you select the item or you select it here in the elements tab, if you do $0, then that's the last element that you selected. So then you can call the methods or properties on that. So if I wanted to change this color again, I could do that. $0. Okay. Any questions?
Not for me, thank you.
On Wednesday, you'll get to a point where you'll be able to create a button and make that button clickable so that when it's clicked, it will create something on the page for you. But you first need to know how to select create, and we're also going to cover removing. So that's another method on the element that you create that you'll have access to remove. So let's see. Let's make a function, I guess. Maybe let's pass in some text and move that down here. Create element, move this up here and say inner text equals to text. Keep the color, and instead of doing that down here, we also do it up here. So instead of just creating, we say add list item, and this method should be available on the DOM now. So if we start typing, yep, it's there. Add list item. Let's add some text. Clean the kitchen. Right, so you can imagine that you could have a input field and a button next to it. You type in your text, you click the button, and then it gets added to the page. But now, when we want to remove it, let's just cheat here and select 0.remove, or document dot querySelector li dot remove. Any questions on remove? It actually removes it from the DOM, so you won't be able to see it in the Elements tab either. Yep, not much else on remove. So you can end up making something fairly interactive. So if we do const last li equals document dot querySelector li, leave its last child, yeah, this last one, so we can do last li dot remove. Any questions?
Patrick, when you try to delete something on the browser, so you delete just on the browser, right? You can't delete on your file in JS.
Yeah, you won't be deleting on your file. All of this will just be client side. So if
when
I came,
you refresh page, it would be the same.
Yeah, if you well, in this case, because I don't have anything being added here, so let's see if I take this stuff and did that, and every time I refresh the page I'll have 4, but if I document dot query selector all li, and you guys remember the for each, so I can element e dot remove remove all of them, but if I refresh, I'll have them there. So this is just client side. This is just what gets sent to the user of the website. I can't go on coders in hoods and just delete everything. It wouldn't affect his website. So I just deleted the body. There's no body here anymore, but if I refresh, he'll still have his website there.
Okay, thank you. And one more. We have file app.js and index.html. Am I right that it can't work app.js if it doesn't have index.html? So I need to create index.html to work with app.js file.
Yeah. Well, in this case, as I mentioned, I'm using this extension. Sorry. Using this extension live server. So it's just a local development it's just easier for you to get started with regular HTML or looks like there's one app for PHP, but this way, you know, I'm sure some designers just use it for editing markup and using CSS. You could also use, if I added a CSS file here, .css, and then body black. That wouldn't work until I come in here and style. Oh, is it style? What's it again? Remind me. This is when I work with too much React. No. Come on, y'all know this. Help me. Link. App.css. So now when I go back to my page, yeah, black background. So live server is just serving these files as if it was a regular web server. You can also use Code Sandbox if you wanted to. You can sign in with your GitHub so you can save the ones that you create, but you can see the templates. So if you just created you could go with a static HTML. And as I mentioned last class, it's just like another VS Code, but in the browser. If I created a app.js, Up to you. I prefer live server because I don't have to rely on an internet connection. But Code Sandbox is pretty cool to just get started playing new stuff. But I also encourage you to, go on Wikipedia, maybe search for someone famous, which is not me. St. Patrick. You could go and you could take this image and change the source to, let's go to GitHub.
I've seen that guy before.
Yeah. Okay, that's not working right now, but play around pages, just look at elements and inner text equals just change stuff. Go on Twitter. I'm sure you've seen fake tweets sometimes. So you could, it's a lot of picture, just media. Oh my god. Okay, but you could select that. I said inner text equals where did that go? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I just went there, but you get what I mean. So in between now, I guess the exercises will give you some things to do, but I encourage you to just select elements and look at all the methods you have access to, all the properties you have access to, and just play around with them. I can also challenge you to make a to-do list. Yeah. But other than that, there is finding elements, creating elements, and deleting elements. Doable, easy. Hard? Difficult?
As you say, I think needs to be kind of practiced and done like ourselves.
Yeah.
It sounds. I mean, it looks familiar. Given our kind of limited our small knowledge of JS. It looks and CSS.
Yeah, so
look doable.
It's gonna start to bring all the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript all together, especially when you start to do the project, I believe. And this will kind of also prepare you for React, which looks even weirder. Syntax will be just everything almost in one. So get as much practice in as possible. Even if you're just creating a square and changing the color or changing the size. Okay. Element div dot style dot height equals 300 px dot width equals 300 px dot background color equals yellow dot border color equals red dot border size style. Oh, I'll just use border. So 2px red dotted, I believe it's one, and document dot body dot append square. And I know I did that fast, but you get there. It's I just had a lot of practice you need to put in, and I guess that's why this lesson was separated from the actual manipulation part with the events and event listeners. Would you like a preview of that, or is this fine?
Can you preview what, sorry?
Of the event listeners you'll be doing on Wednesday.
That would be helpful, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So let's say
we can add just square, or we can add oval or something like that. So please.
Pardon? Say again?
We add just square, right? I mean rectangle. Can we add something different, or?
Yeah, you can add anything. Well, anything within you, within what you can create on the DOM. So I just created a square because I know it's, I could put the height and the width, and I give it a color and a border color, etc. But there's some advanced stuff you can do with CSS, like you can create a Coca-Cola can if you want to. If you want some really good examples of what you can do with CSS, HTML, and JavaScript, then you can go to codepen.io, I believe. And so you can find stuff that is just made in CSS and JavaScript.
Okay.
But let's say when you click a to-do item, you wanted it to be removed, so you could do this item, and remember you have access to all these different methods. So this onClick is an event listener. So when this item is clicked, you want it to do something. So you can give it a function, right? And in that function, you'll get access to that event, right? So I'll just say event. Actually, I'm not going to use it right now because we already have list item here. So, but I guess, well, let's show you the right way. So event.target. You don't have to commit any of this to memory because you're going to learn it in the next lesson, but event.target.remove. So if I click on that, it's removed. Click on that, it's removed. And so on and so forth. So you see it can get really interactive when you get to the listeners. But please try to get good with selecting, creating, and removing first before you go on to the actual events. But again, this is just saying this list item, when it's clicked, you want it to do whatever's in this function. This function gets access to that event that happens, and that event knows about the target, which is this list item, and then you're just telling it to be removed. So I mean, based on just this alone, you can probably play around and make a to-do list, and instead of actually clicking on your list itself, maybe you have a square here with an X on it, and when you click that is when the item will be deleted.
Why we need to add this word like remove? Why we can't just select and remove this line? I mean, 13 line. Why we can't just remove it?
If we just did like that, because then it would just be removed before you even get to add it to the DOM. This should be called immediately. So I mean, if I leave that there, then nothing should be on. Or maybe it is. Oh, sorry. Remove wouldn't work here because it's not actually any DOM yet. But if I put that here, it wouldn't be any DOM. So what I had there before, I was just giving each and every one of these list items an action that can happen, which is when I click on it, it will be removed. But I'm just giving you a preview of what you'll be doing, so that all this information I've given you isn't just boring material. It's going to help you build more interactive pages from Wednesday. Okay, so any more questions?
No, I don't have. Thank you.
No, it is quite cool. I'm like discovering all this and find this all very fascinating.
Okay.
I'm fine. I do not find front end fascinating at all, but that's just me.
Oh yeah.
I like back end, and this thing is like, okay, we have to learn it, we have to go through it, we need to go over it. I just like the backend logic stuff, like talking to the database, pulling the info, and then the front end guys will see how they make it look in the front end.
Yeah,
But we should do it, yes.
I would say around this time is when you get to the point where you decide whether you want to specialize in front end or back end. I like to see stuff changing because of code that I written. So that's fun for me. That's why I prefer the front end. But yeah, back end logic can get quite cool and complicated. So if that's more what you like, then
I think that once we get to React, I might be, like more motivated
mm-hmm.
to get stuff done, just because it's like I was talking before the meeting, like the real project that I need to find a solution to. I have no clue about how to show all that information in the front end, because I'm totally clueless about the front end thing. But yeah, it's definitely needed. Although I like to talk to the servers and the database, but that's just my preference. But yeah, this is very, very important indeed.
Well, it's also pretty useful for backend guys to be able to just display something on a big page instead of just only in a console anyway. So it would be still helpful to know some front end stuff. Even if you just wanted to build your own Excel like table with filters and stuff, you can do that with React.
Does React interact with Excel?
I'm sure there are plugins you can use. I'm sure if I look for React Excel, there's probably a npm package. Yeah, React Export Excel. So almost anything you can think of, someone's already made a package for it, and you can use it. Yeah, so this guy has a React like spreadsheet.
So that's what you need, Ricardo, for your project.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
That looks quite cool. So it's like embedded to your. Is this an Excel file that is embedded to your web page or something?
It's probably yeah. So here it looks like it's a component that it is most likely built with HTML and CSS, but displayed with React and some different properties you can adjust to get your desired look, colors and such. This is a spreadsheet component built in. You see a demo here. Okay, that's the same demo. Oh, but I can interact with it now. Yep. So this is React here, and if we were to use React to do this, it would probably be like half the lines, maybe, hopefully.
Cool.
Yeah, so I think Vasily deployed the exercises on your project.
Yeah, I saw it on Git on Slack. He sent the exercises already.
Cool. I didn't do the CLI project, but I'll probably try this project. Just in case you guys have any questions. Sorry I wasn't available over the weekend. As I mentioned earlier, Virgin Media had me without internet for a bit.
Ouch. Do you know if there is, or maybe it's a question for Vasily, but at some point are we provided with any feedback on the exercises and projects we do?
Oh, you haven't been getting feedback yet?
Me personally, no, I haven't been.
Okay, I'll ask.
I don't know you guys.
But if you guys want me to give feedback as well, you can send me the projects, or if you have you been putting stuff on your GitHubs, because they can look at them there.
Well, I guess we get the feedback when we do the exercise. When it's actually completed, we get a green versus red. So I guess yeah, it's self-explanatory. Actually,
the tests actually do a lot of the work for Cine, yeah. But
yeah, so basically, yeah, there's no need to. And the CLI also is working in a certain way, so it doesn't actually. Yeah, so my question actually is a bit.
No, yeah, it's good to get, because like there are plenty of ways to do a lot of the implementation for the projects that you work on. So
yeah, to be fair, my CLI I know could be better. It's not very beautiful. Like the code is, because you start with something and then you think about something else, and then you end up with something that is a bit. I know it. Like I needed maybe another hour to rework it nicely, but yeah, I didn't put that in extra effort.
Yeah,
it was working. It was doing the job. So.
Well, that's how it goes normally. You build whatever you're building, sometimes as fast as you possibly can, and get it to work. And once you get it to work, then you refactor and make it look a bit better code wise. So you have when you finish your course, I would recommend going back through any projects you built and making them better and putting them on GitHub to showcase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, well, that's it for me. I'm sure you'll enjoy Wednesday's lesson because all of this will make more sense. And feel free to reach out for me if you have any more questions.
Thanks, Patrick.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for being here. Really appreciate it. I'll send you a message on Slack. And we'll talk when you have the chance. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Okay.
Good to see you, Thomas.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.